Hello. So in this video I am going to show you how to add labels to your inputs so you don't have to take input blocks and literally mark them down for each input. So just a heads up, these are just random circuits I just put together just for the demonstration. They really don't do very much anything. But okay, so let's say that I know that all of these inputs relate to each other. So I want to label these in a way that identify them as being related to each other. So I would probably use a common name like A1, A2, A3, A4, etc. So instead of going through and adding an input block for each one of them, a simple way to do this in Quartus is to come here. I just double click, but you can right click and go to properties. I'll show you that. So alternative way of getting there, right click, properties, and this is the important step. You can read up here, it tells you how to do it. I will name this A, and let's see, how many inputs do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I will want 4 down to 0. It's 4 down to 0 because I want input 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. That's 5 total. Okay, and all that is fine. And now with this, I can come over here and label each wire by either right clicking, going to properties, and name this A. Be sure to use the square brackets. A4, and I should be able to just click on the wire and type A3, A2, A1, and A0. So let me get rid of this square so you can see that. So now I have my wires labeled with 5 different wires labeled, only using one input block, but this one input block is actually representing 5 different inputs. So I mean, you would use this for some of your more advanced circuits. You'll start to see it can really get messy if you try to actually add input blocks if you have like 30 inputs or something. So just be aware of this and know how to use it. I can also do this with my output. So you can take an output block, and let's say I know that all of my outputs relate in a way. Somehow, some way, all of my outputs relate in a way. Like if I look at this at a higher level, this would be my block. So what you do it the same way. You can double click on this gate, the arrow, double click on this gate, or just change the name like this. Let's say my output is going to be O, and I have 3 cases, so that's 2 down to 0, and I can label this O2, O1, and O0. So again, this is really to clean up the way your circuit looks, and in the future when your circuit requires a bit more organization, you can kind of block off, have a segment in your block diagram strictly for inputs, a segment for your circuits, and a segment for all of your outputs. So here's a real example. You can see that I'm using the bus inputs. Let me expand this. Just click that button. to create its own window. And so you can also notice that I'm using bus line, and this is this wire over here, orthogonal bus tool, and this will create a thicker line than what you would normally use, which is this line. So what this thick line is actually saying is that it's not only carrying one signal, it's carrying multiple signals, and the number of signals is specified by the labeling on that bus line. So don't actually worry about this circuit or try to understand anything about it. This is not part of the class. This is just an additional project, an extra project I did for the class, but it's a good example of organizing your circuit and labeling your input blocks and using buses. So you can see out of this block I have a bus line called input 7 down to 0 bracket 7 dot dot 0 bracket, and I can use that for a different block as input, or I can use a piece of it as input. So let me zoom in and show you something very useful. This signal is providing 8 bits, but over here I have input 4 down to 0. So I'm actually only using the last 5, the least significant 5 bits of that bus from above right here. But I'm also using this input 7 down to 0 over here, and I'm using the whole 8 bits. So you can see how useful this can be. But the main thing to get out of it is how clean your circuit can look. I mean, just think of me actually setting individual wires for all of these inputs. I mean, you can see how fast this can get messy. I have 8 bits right here, 8 bits right here, 2, 8, 8, 8. So I'll probably have well over 100 different signals I'll have just scattered around. One more thing while I'm here, I might as well show y'all some good techniques for future lab reports. As you can see, I have everything blocked off, so once you get used to using buses and labeling, you can kind of segment off your blocks like this to really show me and Dr. Choi the different segments of your circuit. But so what I usually like to do for a lab report is kind of show the overall view. This is kind of messy since it's such a large circuit, but for this class, none of the circuits should be this large. But I would do something like this. I just right click and went to fit to window, and I'll do a print screen and just crop out everything that belongs and blow it up and put it in the lab report. And then after that, I'll just kind of zoom in on each component so I can really see without having to zoom in on the lab report. So I can just go to fit selection in window, and it'll blow up. Usually it blows up a little too big, so I'll just zoom out just a little bit. I just get this and right click to zoom out, and then I would just take a print screen of this, post it in Word, and crop out this block and post it in my lab report. And I'll do that for each different segment in my block diagram. Well, I know some curious minds are probably wondering where I got this block from. This labeling to kind of make your circuit look a little more official. That's found in the basic symbols window. Just type in title and it'll pop up. And yeah, they have different versions, so whatever works for you. And you don't have to use this. It's just if you feel like your circuit is worth putting a nice label on. Okay, well that's it for this tutorial. Thank you.